This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. It is Arizona Auction Week, Arizona Car Week. I keep calling it Auction Week because that's kind of what it is, but the Car Week, it's kind of taken on that name. I believe it started last year. So coming up on today's show, I decided to head over to the Warehouse, that place that I'm always talking about, the Warehouse Event Center, and to sit down with my good friend, Rebecca Nguyen. When we sat down for our conversation, I did not recall how long it's been since she's been on the show. But I did some research afterwards, and it was December of 2021. I'm going to post that in the show notes so you can go back and listen to that. I don't know if I'm going to make it to the auction, the big auction this week. I don't remember the last time that's happened, but there are some events going on that I will be attending, one of which will be at the Warehouse. But before we get to that, the Arizona Audubon Act is something that I saw flash up on social media, and I looked into it. House Bill 2059, also known as the Reasonable and Prudent Interstate Driving Act, RAPID, introduced by Rep. Nick Cupper, which proposed creating de-restricted speed zones on certain rural interstates for non-commercial vehicles during the daylight hours, eliminating specific speed limits for a pilot program and potentially expanding, drawing inspiration from Germany's Autobahn system for a safer, reasonable, and prudent driving. Wow, that's interesting. Some key provisions of the RAPID Act: ADOT, Arizona Department of Transportation, can designate rural interstate sections, populations of under 50,000 for no maximum speed limit during daylight, sunrise to sunset. Nighttime limits, 80 miles an hour would still apply. 80 miles an hour at night, that's still booking. Would still apply at night on these stretches. Commercial vehicles, trucks, and other commercial vehicles will still observe the standard 80 mile an hour limit. I can't even remember where we have 80 posted. It's somewhere in the state. I think there's an 80 mile an hour stretch between here and Tucson, I think. But that would be wild. Tell me what your thoughts are on an Arizona Audubon if that were to come true. Feels dangerous. Sounds dangerous. But the reality is there's a lot of cars today that can fly and feel perfectly normal and safe. I can cruise at 110, 120 in my car and not sweat it. In an older car, a little hairy, for example, take my 1999 Acura Integra GSR. Even with the turbo on it, you get up to 120 and you're just begging that thing to stay together. In my NSX now, you get to 120 and you don't really realize it. You know, I'm going to try to read this ad again. Last week, I fumbled pretty poorly, and I have not had a chance to put it to music and make it sound more professional. So here goes. If you run a business and you're tired of juggling tools, chasing logins, and constantly feeling like the tech side of things is heavier than it should be, this might hit close to home. That tech fatigue usually shows up as an outdated website. Before I met these guys, reviews slipping through the cracks, missed calls when you're busy, or social media that's always on the back burner. Most business owners know something's off, but fixing it seems like a bigger project than they have time for. SparkForge exists to take that weight off. It handles the tech behind the scenes, helps clean up how your business shows up online, makes sure calls and messages don't get missed, keeps reviews from slipping through the cracks, and wrangles social marketing so you don't disappear for weeks. If you're curious, there's a short discovery session, and it comes with 90 days free. Actually, see if it makes things easier. No pitch, no pressure, just a real conversation about what's working, what's broken, and what you can simplify. SparkForge brings everything together, one login, one platform, so you're not fighting your tech just to run your business. Head over to sparkforge.ai/hardparking to get started. Yikes. All right, we're at the Warehouse with Rebecca Nguyen. Finally, right? We've been talking about doing this for a year. I've been talking about doing this for a year, and here we are a year later, finally here. So,
when was the last time we had our first podcast? That was a while.
It was a few years ago.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I reload that as one of the classics.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's harder now because I do video, right?
Yeah.
But there was so much good stuff that came out of there.
Mm.
And then when I listen to you on other people's podcasts, I'm like, did they ask her anything interesting? No, but it's informative, which is why people are there. But I still take pride, and I'm so proud that I was able to extract some of that good stuff from you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things I probably enjoy about your podcasts is that you're not strictly trying to achieve one topic or the other. You kind of let it naturally progress in the way that it needs to progress. And so there's always like little fun Easter eggs that will pop up that you didn't expect that came out of a topic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always find that to be fun about your podcasts. So.
Well, I do appreciate it. And we are at the warehouse, and so it's right off of a busy street. We got a lot of stuff going on. It is auction week, which is kind of new for Arizona.
Yeah, so, ish, right?
I mean, as far as the name, right?
Yeah, so we now call it Arizona Car Week. I guess it's been kind of called that in an informal sense for a while. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago or so, it's hard to say, when it actually like solidified as an entity. I know, Darren over at Motorworks Marketing, he's really put in an effort to make that more of a legitimized concept, kind of how Monterey Car Week, of course, is like. So kind of with that thought in mind, it made sense for us here to do something that's more than just a cars and coffee, an open house or something like that. So, some self-promotion here. We're doing a 6-day art gallery, which is bonkers. It's been a great journey, but at the same time, my poor husband is turned into a woodworker. So, but leading off of what we did in November for that GTR exhibit, that was actually the test run for the art gallery. So kind of trying to think forward and think ahead and see how the community takes something of this nature versus the quick 3-hour hit event kind of thing. So the response on that was great because people really did enjoy having the opportunity to just slow down, walk and enjoy something to their own leisure, and they even come back, right? So I've started to kind of see this shift in what the consumer is kind of asking for, and I'm trying to take advantage of it, and this is kind of what we're doing.
So you do a lot of fantastic events here. So all week is going to be the art event?
Yep. So the art gallery is opened just like an art gallery. And so it's opened January 20th, which is a Tuesday, all the way to Sunday, the 25th, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then on Sunday, it's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Aside from that, we have 2 nighttime events. The first one is on the 22nd, which is Thursday. And that's more of an intimate meet and greet with the artists. So all 4 artists will be here. We'll do a panel discussion, and then you can kind of talk to them directly. Maybe there's a specific piece that you wanted or interested in, or you're even wanting some level of consultation for a piece of your own, right? And all the artists do that, which is really cool. And then on the 23rd, we've invited Avance to host their pit stop for their members here. So if you're a member of the warehouse or the member of Avance, you have access.
Well, my car will be here at least.
Oh, yeah, that's right. At least on for Friday, right?
Friday, yeah.
Hopefully you can come Thursday, but day before travel is not always the best.
No, I probably would. I need it. And I've seen the ads on social media, of course, and they look fantastic. And I wouldn't miss it for the world, being a wannabe artist growing up, an illustrator.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Did I? No, I didn't know that.
So in school, most people thought I was going to be either I was going to design shoes for Nike, or I was going to design cars, or I was going to be a sports artist.
Still can. You're still young.
Vera
Wang didn't start
until down the barrel of like 50.
40. I think she was 45 when Vera Wang started. And
that's
look
awesome.
at her now, so.
Yeah, don't let my wife hear that. She's always, Jay, you don't ever use your artistic skill anymore. You don't ever create anymore. I'm like,
you can do it.
I create all the time. Like,
in a different way, I guess. About? That's true.
Yeah, because I think it's passion, right? I mean, passion is what drives you.
I like to think so.
Over and over.
There's
to
some
do
level
all these
of
things.
crazy, too.
There's a little crazy. Yeah, you have to be kind of driven. I think would it be fair to, maybe it's kind of an escape in a journey?
Yeah.
Too?
Of course. I mean, it's actually funny that you mentioned that, because a new current trend on social media is the 10-year look back. And it just so happens that 2026 is the 10-year anniversary of the first FCCS. And what a full circle kind of, like, I get goosebumps thinking about it, but full circle type of moment to know that now during Car Week, instead of doing FCCS, I have this beautiful, vision here that we're executing. It's kind of crazy how that all evolved. And it really did evolve from that show. Because during that time while I was working at show and creating that show, I was actually a full-time general manager for a restaurant. I think I was in Fox Restaurant Concepts during that time. And that same year, I actually left my cushy, I don't even call it cushy, it was really hard, but I was making great money. And I left that at the end of 2016 to then come actually work here for my now partner, which is bonkers. Again, bonkers. Everything's wild, you know? You never know where I guess you'll go. But yeah, full circle, 10 years, 10 years ago, I came here for my first automotive job. And now I'm a partner with my ex-boss. And we have this amazing social hub that we're creating here.
That's wild. And I want to talk more about the warehouse because this is the kind of the first real introduction because I've talked about it on the podcast quite a bit. I'm always like at the warehouse, Rebecca warehouse. But I'm glad you kind of took it back to FCCS because I did want to try to find a way to kind of drive that into this conversation. And yet you brought it up. Kind of looking back at that. And I think a lot of people, at least in my circles that knows you or met you originally, it was through FCCS, Future Collector Car Show. And like I think yesterday, a couple of days ago, I'd uploaded a photo and tagged Fielding Shredder, and tagged Future Collector Car Show. And I'm like, I don't even know if anyone's manning this account anymore.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of those things that for me is always going to be cemented as part of my Arizona, car journey. Very proud of actually winning an award there.
That's awesome.
And it's one of those things you look back at is like, God, it was such a great thing that you did. And looking back at that, how do you think that event is going to be remembered? Because a lot has happened between 2016 and then with the whole Barrett thing. And then now it's no longer a thing anymore.
Yeah, I think, I made that post actually last night, I think, kind of just walking down memory lane. And it was funny because I got, stories responses to it. And one of them, Mark Valentino, which we both know, now with Radford, he actually responded. He's like, I was a judge at that show. And even though I didn't probably directly introduce myself to him at that moment in that time, but now we're working together in a separate capacity. But it's just all those like little red strings of fate, if you will, that blossomed out of that. I think that's what it's remembered for, is really every little connection that event, that brand created. Everyone is reminiscing on those, and that's always been kind of my mission. It's like a personal mission. It's self-satisfying, if you will. But I get gratification from everything that I do when someone says, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember being there. I met so-and-so there, or met me there, and even, a little sidestep, when I saw everyone's 2025 recaps, everyone's posting about it and stuff, to see just like a random photo taken at the warehouse, that solidifies that, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm doing something of significant value. Maybe it's not on the number sheet, on a spreadsheet, and it's got this great, bottom line number. But the fact that I can be a part of people's lives in such a great capacity over the last decade is a reward in itself. And I think that's really what I'm chasing here. To some guilt, because I've stressed my husband out financially. But so I think that's what it's really going to be remembered for, is all of the connections that were created out of just a single night. If you remember, it was only like a 4-hour, 6-hour event maybe. And just crazy how many people came together and pulled something out of that. And now we can reminisce 10 years later.
That's an excellent response.
I'm going to work on these responses.
From an organizational standpoint. But I would say that because I've talked about it with other people. Mm-hmm. And for those that haven't used that as kind of a springboard for connections and networking and moving on with professional things, one of the most common things I hear is, man, that was such a great show. We've never seen anything like it here. It had so much potential to grow and become something really great because it was this perfect combination and just touched a market, a market of people and a section of cars that nobody else was looking at. Mm-hmm. And I think besides being remembered as one of the best events that we had here every year, I think people are going to think about it also and be sad of what it should have been in the end. And, that's not because of you, obviously, but it's just such a missed opportunity. And I hope that as Arizona continues to grow, as Phoenix continues to grow with things like what we're sitting at right now, right? Car Week, Arizona Car Week, and just continues to expand as places like the warehouse add events and things for people to do all throughout the course of the week, not just a house party,
Yeah.
or just something on Friday or Saturday night, but gives people that are coming into town as well a reason to come in town earlier than they typically would.
Yep. Yeah, and I think Arizona, everyone's grasping at the opportunity, which is great. It is really great. I think there is a bit of, it's like a fine line that I'm trying to push our community of organizers or people of influence to kind of push them into something more elevated, right? Don't do a quick fix. Don't do just a quick open house type thing. Start looking into it as, again, building legacy, right? So I'm hoping that as we grow what we're doing at the warehouse, it's, in some sense, try not to be so braggadocious, as my husband would say, but in some sense, creating the right kind of competition here, right? We're in Mesa. We're doing things differently. We're investing in this more grander spectacle. And one of the reasons why I feel like an obligation to do that is because I want Arizona to be recognized as the car culture hub that it is, right? And not to throw anybody at the bus, but there is some feedback I get from outside industry professionals, or I don't want to say influencers, but essentially people of impact that kind of tell me, they're like, oh, it's not even on my radar. I don't think about it. I texted a couple of people that I feel like are very impactful to our generation. And I was like, hey, are you coming out to Arizona Car Week? And literally they were just like, I didn't even know about it. Like, that's crazy. It's crazy. And it's so sad. So sad. So long story short, I feel like there is an obligation here with the warehouse. I'm trying to represent Arizona and within my own circle of industry professionals and stuff. And that's why this, crazy idea of doing a 6-day art gallery came to life. I just spent like $3,000 on lumber to build gallery walls. And
at least it's not lumber in 2020.
Yeah. Oh man, I wish I should have just bought
that would have been $13,000 then. Yeah.
That's true. But yeah, so this art gallery is really important. What Arizona Car Week is doing is really important, as you know. Putting everything in our backyard, it just makes sense. We have the cars, we have the people, we have the space. It just makes sense.
I think, to be fair, because we kind of opened with it, Arizona Car Week as a name is it's so new. Mm-hmm. I remember maybe even just last year going to another one of the facilities and seeing the posters and the sticker. And it's, oh, wow, Arizona Car Week, this is great. And talking to another kind of a big time influencer, Amy Shackelford. Mm. And we were at kind of the bar hanging out at their hotel, and they were like, hey, I hope this is going to continue to be a thing. This has so much potential because, they do a lot of stuff in Monterey Car Week. Yeah. A lot of stuff. And so I think moving forward, it'll just continue to grow and just be a thing. And you won't hear that, I have no idea it was a thing anymore.
I know. It's such a missed opportunity. But at the same time, it's exciting because, like, even from you and I as an individual, we have the opportunity to own the market, whatever part of the market that we want. So everyone is, like I said before, everyone's grasping, right? They're trying to get a piece of the pie and be a staple because that opportunity is on the table. You don't have that opportunity in Monterey. You're fighting with something that's been there for, I don't know, I think Pebble Beach has been around at least 50 years, right? So there's so much opportunity here. And I really encourage our fellow enthusiasts to take advantage of it, but also have some level of responsibility, I think responsibility is the word for it, to own up to the fact that we have to represent Arizona well. That will bring in the brands that we want to see, right? I was working with Petrolicious and getting them here. And it's a
big deal.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of their brand, their production, how they started, what they represent in the film and photography world of cars. And the only way we can do that is by doing crazy things that are at a level that we could have never imagined.
Is it difficult being so far away from, I would say, the action in sense, the auction week, everything is, Arizona Car Week, everything is Scottsdale-esque because that's where the big auction is, right. A lot of the hotels. So obviously, Phoenix is huge as it is, but have you found that to kind of be a challenge getting people out here to Mesa? Because it's not far. It's a straight shot down the highway.
It is a challenge, but it's also, I think, a differentiator, which is kind of interesting because there is a certain clientele, and because the market's so huge here now, there is a certain niche clientele.
That word.
Yeah, niche clientele that they want to get out of the crazy. They want to get out of the Scottsdale traffic, and they want to get away from it. And that's our differentiator. We are close enough, like you said, right off the 101, about 15 minutes from Old Town Scottsdale, and it's all freeway, so it's pretty easy access. And so that becomes an advantage. And we took some time to really dial in our branding to make sure that elevated nature was worth the drive, even though it's 15 minutes. So over the course of the last year, every time we host an event, every time we produce content from that event or that experience, it has slowly convinced people that, like, oh, Mesa's not so bad.
Right.
In the right space.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
It's nice because our building is so locked down. It's so unassuming that once people come in, they're like, they feel safe, basically. So I definitely spent the time and effort in order to alleviate that skeptical kind of purview of what Mesa is. City of Mesa is also trying to do that as well. There's a lot of gentrification happening on Main Street. I don't know if you've been down there.
I was just thinking, as you said that, like it's a mile away, if that, and it is awesome now compared to what it was 6 years ago, much less 10 years ago.
Totally. And even the Asian district, H Mart's there. It's actually been named the Asian district. They have signs up now. I don't know if you've been down there lately. Mekong just expanded, and they actually are a good partner of ours as well. They support what we're doing and vice versa. There's a lot of money that's coming into here, and being in a historic building, it's really been able to draw people in because of the fact that it's not your typical kind of space. It's not your typical journey. It's not your typical experience. So we've turned it into a differentiator, an advantage. It just took a little while.
How do you go through picking what type of events and which events you want to do here? Because I would imagine there's multiple proposals maybe to do stuff. There is a thought out there, and I will share this with you, where I as in the person saying this, not I as in Jhae Pfenning, I see Warehouse do their videos and their stuff on Instagram and other social media, and it's just so, my car is better than your car, it's so highfalutin and so much, we're better than you. And I go, no, that's not the case at all. I said, because if it was, I wouldn't be there. And I said, I'm very good friends with a lot of people that are there. So if you say that the people that are there are like that, you're saying I'm like that. And I always hear, no, you're not like that at all, but you're cool with everyone.
Yeah.
So it's a two-part question. How do you pick the events that you do? And, are you constantly having to battle that online? And what do you think you can do about things of that nature? Because you do have open public events as well.
Absolutely. That's a great question because it's something that I hold dear to my heart as well. You know me from my Subaru days, right? Still have my Subaru, my little bug guy.
Yep.
Yeah. It's goofy, right? It looks like a Hot Wheel on the road.
Banana ruin the house.
It's hard to take someone seriously if you're hanging with the guys that have the high-end exotics, and that, I have this Subaru, but I think it kind of stems from my own selfish need again to kind of fit in, right? I now have the Porsche, but before that, I loved all kinds of cars. I don't have a dream car because I still don't know if I have any bias, because I just love cars in general and what they can do, what they do for the people, and the stories behind them, right? And another reason why the Warehouse exists. But the reason why I mentioned that is that selfishly, I wanted to make sure that everyone felt welcomed, like everyone from every walk of enthusiast level, because there's been several times that I'll walk into, an event or an experience and just don't feel like I belong. And that is like the grossest feeling ever, But at the same time, I'm so interested in the subject that I got to put myself out there, but it doesn't have to be like that, is basically what I'm saying. And so the way I do the event curation and the thought process is really based off of that kind of concept. So if I do a high-end event, say the Porsche event, we had 911 turbos here, we had 40 of them, et cetera. We had a singer, we had a roof, and this crowd that even though I have a Porsche, I don't really relate all that much, right? A lot of them are different places in life, et cetera, et cetera. Right after that, I believe we did the Lego night.
Brick by brick.
Brick by brick.
Mm-hmm.
So we did this high scale, high volume, high expensive car. And then we went family friendly, and we had people coming in that didn't even like cars that came to the Brick by Brick event. They built, their succulent Lego or whatever. And we had pizza and it was informal and we had music playing and things like that. So to balance and to introduce everyone into the space, I make sure to do things that are relatable to anyone of any scale. So we did that high-end event, then we did the Lego night, then after that we did the chef's table, and that in itself is more geared towards, I guess I don't want to say a higher echelon, but someone that can afford that higher ticket, the 5-course meal that we did and are interested in that kind of culinary experience. So it pulls in a different demographic, but then also a different interest. And then after that, we did Obscurity, which is all the rare and quirky cars. And yes, we had some that are a little on the higher end and stuff, but we also had ones that were like, here's a right-hand drive RAV4, and you can only appreciate it if you're into that kind of quirky car. So yeah, my curation is really based on that concept of I want to make sure everyone's welcome. So I made sure to touch kind of every sensory of the enthusiast, anything from the obscure and rare to, the more trendy mainstream kind of thing, because that's really my goal. I want to feel comfortable, let alone make everyone else comfortable, right?
I think, and I agree, to define this place at times is hard because of all those things. And the venue, as you said, a historic building, this place is excellent, and you've done so many things here. For the people not really paying as much attention as they should, kind of explain what all you can actually do with this space.
Yeah, I think my one-liner, I've been developing it more and more. We've been pivoting as well as we're a collector car storage facility, social hub, and event venue based in a beautiful historical red brick warehouse.
It's pretty good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think there is some level of underselling, I feel, with how simple that one-liner is. But again, we're working on it, or I'm working on it. And yeah, it's kind of a blank canvas, like you mentioned. I had my wedding here. There's a couple of people who've come to events and they mentioned they'd been here for a different event. I had a kid. Okay, I say kid, but he's like 20 something.
No, that's a kid.
Okay, thank you. He came in and he was like, "Yeah, I had my prom here," and I was like, "Wild, right?" And then he's a car enthusiast. He's coming back. He's doing things. So we're building memories here. That's what's most important.
Wow, that's fantastic. What do you think the future of this space is? It's a very competitive space anyway.
Yeah.
A place like this where multiple things can be done, being located where you are located. Do you see more of these popping up? And then how do you differentiate what the warehouse does from some of the other ones that are kind of in the same event space?
That's the question I'm answering now. To your point, there are other venues that are kind of similar. They're great spaces as well. I think the best way for us to kind of differentiate ourselves or really build off this momentum is, again, those memories that you have here. You're likely more inclined to book a place for your wedding knowing you already have memories there. Maybe you went on your first date here at an event, or, you and your family came for a car show and that ignited your child's, excitement about cars. So I think there's this long run kind of gameplay here of just exposing people to the building, giving them a chance to kind of see my vision, and then maybe potentially see an opportunity for their own vision. We've had a couple of people do that actually. And I've given people tours, shown them the space that want to do some of their own things. There's a fashion show that wants to come in here now.
Oh, great.
Yeah, great. Yeah, exactly. But it's, again, because they were inspired by content we created, events that we've created, and maybe even an interaction they've had here in the space. So that is like the easy answer, things that we're already doing. As far as building off of that and really establishing us as the go-to space to have these significant milestone events for individuals or companies, that's probably the next hurdle. There's another facility in downtown Phoenix that does a really good job of it. That's probably our main competition because they really aren't that far. They have a bigger team, et cetera. But I do take some inspiration for them, of course, as a competitor. So I haven't answered that question yet. I think, for anybody that's listening or watching this far in, if you have any suggestions, let me know.
Can we turn the basement into a haunted house?
I think that is the best idea. I want to do something cool down there. It's creepy. It's so creepy. There's so much opportunity down there too. Because from an acoustic standpoint, I feel like that would be a cool place to do like, I don't know, do this like candlelight, classical music events, or even doing like a, drum and bass thing down there or something. I wanted to do something for Halloween, but it came and went.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, it'll be back.
That's true. We need to start planning now.
Yeah.
I was too busy planning for that Code R event, which was probably I don't even know how to explain that. I definitely cried a couple times during that whole thing, like before, during, even after, because it was so significant. There were so many full circle things in that too. There's a lot of car owners that came that had come to FCCS the first time, the second time, or whatever. And then even just to have Larry here, Larry was like an inspiration for me when it came to photography.
Absolutely.
I came across him at Long Beach FD probably like 2013 maybe. He gave me a Speed Hunters sticker, I think it was, when he was back with them. And to now see him come in here and actually be impressed by what we've done. I mean, what a
proud moment.
Yeah, what a recognition.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude's been all over the world. He's experienced so many levels of events and even intimate things with like Jay Leno and things like that. So for him to recognize this crazy thing that I'm doing, and even to tell me that I was crazy for doing it, like what a compliment, and yeah, I mean, there's a core memory for me at that point. I think that's what I'm just collecting, infinity stones are just core memories. Again, this is all selfish. I'm doing all this for selfish reasons.
Good for you. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very selfish. But I'm like hoarding all these like great memories because that's the only thing that seems to have value for me as of late. I mean, as a parent, I think there's like a shift in your brain.
There is, yeah.
Yeah. And I've experienced it. I love it. I got pictures of my son here during the Kodar exhibit. Thanks to Colton. Big shout out. But yeah, and I want to share that. I want to make sure that everyone else gets it too. Because why not? And it also kind of elevates the memories I have for myself to know that I can. Those memories are shared, right? Even doing the NSX thing with you. I mean, that was bonkers what we had set up, and how quickly
it was pretty nice,
and how quickly we got it together.
And people are already talking about doing it again. So
great, yes.
Yeah, and making memories, like you said.
Yeah, and there's so many opportunities just to grow and refine, and I think that's a missed focus for our generation and even younger in that lesson or that value of spend the time, right? I'm a decade of all this, my journey, right, to get to here is a decade of experience, a decade of interactions, and just all these red strings of fate, like I said before, led me here, and I wouldn't be here without that decade. So I hope that this also makes an impact to the world. Not to, I guess, I have the audacity to say that, but I always worry, one of my biggest worries is that I'm not making a positive impact to the world, to the community that my son's going to grow up in. I mean, I think that's my other mission here with all of this is how do I be a positive impact to the world that I complain about? Because I do complain about it. I don't like what social media is doing. I don't like what AI can do for people.
It's scary, man.
Yeah.
It's so much scarier now than when I first started talking about it 6 months ago.
Yeah.
It's doing everything that I said it couldn't do then.
Yeah. It's scary. And it's also scary in an exciting way because it can resolve a lot of challenges that we have in the right hands. But how do you determine what the right hands are and all of that? And there's also a protection of digital presence that we don't have, right? Social media has that little fine print that says anything you put on here is free reign,
it's fair play.
basically. And whatever's happening on TikTok, they're, Chinese based, blah, blah, blah. But in theory, do I have the manpower, the capacity, the financial wherewithal to be able to protect myself in a digital space? No, absolutely not. Which, don't come after me. But that's what's scary. And anyways, that's a whole nother tangent. By bringing it back to the warehouse, I worry about the space that my son's going to grow up in. And I also worry that, am I making the right impact? So there's a long-term play. There's a lot of conversation I have internally. It's painful. These conversations are very painful because I'm over here throwing a car show, an art gallery, whatever. And there's so much going on overseas. There's so much turmoil. There's, political things that are happening. And even from the AI standpoint, right, there are regulations that may not be in place that I feel like should be in place, but am I actively going and pursuing and making sure that, our politicians are putting those in place? No, I'm throwing a car show. So there's some guilt there too that I fight with as I continue to refine what I'm doing. But my hope is that my future self will use that as a platform to connect the individuals and implement this positive energy. And hopefully that will then attribute to some sort of positive change. Because I think the concept of you are who you hang out with is very, very true. And it's so impactful. I think my whole entire career is based off of who I have interacted with. So I'd like to think that by creating this space, I will create that community that will then really go out and do more positive things, whatever it is, even if it's in a small scale versus a big scale or whatever. So that's been an internal battle. A lot of like, what am I doing? I look at my son and I look at the news and I'm throwing car shows. So I need to figure that part out and come to peace with some parts too.
I wouldn't say push back, but kind of double click into that a little bit. It's amazing that you have time, because you're so busy, to think about those very real things that are going on. And I would say that while that stuff is going on, the guilt part, I think you should try to work on checking a little bit, because in throwing a car show, you're providing an avenue of escape for a lot of people as well. Something where they just don't have to constantly, and no one has to constantly do anything. Mm-hmm. But I still think that it provides a big avenue of escape.
Yeah.
Just like being in the car community and doing all this other stuff. This podcast, it's an escape.
Yeah. It's an informative one, though, at least.
If people make it this far, most of them, yeah. I save the crazy shit to the end usually.
Yeah. We gotta warm them up.
I do, yes. And again, with everything that's going around, and I think also with AI, we have Gen AI versus productivity AI, right? So generation AI is the stuff. The generative is what I think scares more people.
Yeah.
On the surface, like I can't tell what's what in this video.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then productivity AI scares some people because am I going to lose my job? And I think ideally it's really designed to make processes more efficient and shift tasks. I mean, obviously there's going to be people who lose their jobs, right?
Right.
I work in the hospital space. There was a very popular job, borderline entry level, called transcriptionist, where you take what the radiologist and the cardiologist is speaking into a phone and you listen to it and you type it out.
Oh, man.
Obviously, that's a transcriptionist.
Yeah.
And now you have dictaphones that automatically take that and they spit it out on a page, and you just have to kind of go through. And, that's a productivity thing. Transcriptions found other jobs. It made healthcare a lot more efficient, a lot more accurate. So I think there's a lot of stuff out there still. And the AI, I think we're just barely scratching the surface. So.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I definitely see AI shifting the entry level market to where it won't exist anymore. And will that create a bigger separation from, I don't think lower class is the right word to say it, but like that middle class, does that start to like shrink that? Yeah, I think it will if there isn't some, active effort to adapt to it, which I know, don't quote me on this, there are countries now that are implementing some level of AI training that's acquirable for generations maybe before us that are still in the working class, but they didn't grow up in technology like we did. So they have this disadvantage. And a lot of times that working class, that group of people are in those entry level positions. And so if their positions are getting cut, now they're in a position where they either have to learn new things, which at that age it's hard.
Absolutely.
Or, et cetera, et cetera.
As an adult learner, it's like a thing. Yeah.
Yep. So there's this, speaking just strictly to AI, there's this lack of like forward thinking that's really frustrating to me. But luckily there are countries that are thinking about that. So yeah, there's training available for older people that maybe aren't as quickly adaptable as people like us or even the younger generation. And then there's regulation that's not really getting implemented because now everyone has access to a lot of these tools, and who knows what they can create with it, or how they will be influenced by it. There's been these crazy stories about people taking advice from AI, which I don't know how you get there. I don't know if I want to understand how you get there. So it's daunting, but I'm kind of one of those dark people. Jay, this is probably why we're friends. That I'm just like, what's it called? Darwin's law? Is it?
Opposites, right? Opposites. So by you being such a dark person, I'm such a beacon of light.
Yes, of course.
Yes, that's why that works.
Yep, absolutely. So there is a part of me that's like, I think as a species, if you look at us as a species,
oh, this is getting deep. This is getting good.
We kind of have to embrace this level of filtration, if you will, right? And I hate to say it, but like, we don't want to weaken our species in reality. And I think Idiocracy, right? That movie.
That's great.
It really does show what will happen.
It's happening.
Yeah. And people, I've had teachers complain that I've listened to or follow about the next generation not understanding what consequences are. And so they're crashing and failing, and they're getting depressed, and their, suicide rates, they're going up and things like that. And I'm like, I hate to say it, but then the stronger thought invoking or capable person will come out from that, I hate to say it, but that's how evolution works, and so in my mind, there's a responsibility, right, that I understand as an older generation, lead by example, things like that. And I'm trying to invoke that here, and also kind of create the community that I want my son to grow up in. And for even my friends, I want my friends to also have that positive community and not kind of get soaked up into this crazy world of like, there's no consequences, or social media is the answer. Got influencers who are entitled. Yeah. It's just, there's so many things that go into that, but I'm like, yes, evolution is important. Right. It's important for our species. It's important for our future. And so, yes, there are consequences and sacrifices that have to be made to get there. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know how that ties into the warehouse. It doesn't really, but
no, it doesn't have to. This isn't about the warehouse.
It's not. It's a personal thinking process.
It's life. That's this podcast.
Separate that. Yeah.
It absolutely. Mm-hmm. My niece and nephew, they come over to the house and they immediately get on their phone or their iPad and they connect with their good friends. Mm-hmm. Like as soon as they walk in and they're sitting there yelling into it, and they're playing online, which is fun. They never go outside and play anymore. Kids just don't go outside and play anymore. Mm-hmm. And when I look at that, or if I'm at a stoplight and I see these kids whizzing by on these motorized bikes, it's like, how fun for them. But maybe I'm just so old. I look at it and I go, how are they getting exercise?
It's a concern. Yeah.
And it's just, it's that movie WALL-E, right? And WALL-E and everybody's like fat and they're floating around because they're so lazy and everything. I mean, we're moving toward Idiocracy and WALL-E. But that's another thing about kind of social skills is no one's going out. So you're not going to your friend's house and playing games anymore. You're just playing them at home in your own space. And I think there's an important cognitive thing that's happening there.
Absolutely.
And there are studies where you take these iPads and stuff away from kids, not permanently because it's what the world is now. So you have to give them that, but their whole attitude changes. They start doing better in school,
Yep.
My grandkids, because I'm that old, they'll just sit there and gaze into these iPads. And every parent says, when I have a kid, I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. But then you do it because they're quiet, right?
Yeah.
And then you take it away and they just lose their shit.
There's
they're
a chemical change.
But they just lose their shit. But I guess, I want to thank you for allowing me to come over here and crash this space in the middle of your work day.
It works out great. Yeah.
This could probably go for 3 hours.
I know.
Because I know you're like this untapped resource brain.
Man.
But I think it's important because people know you as Rebecca, the woman who puts all this stuff together and runs around and makes stuff happen.
Mm-hmm.
But
why is
I think yeah, but I think also having you on this again is so they can kind of get a slice into who Rebecca is.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
You know, your thoughts on things, your thoughts on parenthood, your thoughts on the struggle of running a place, your thoughts on what's going on in the world, you know, without digging too deep into any specific topic.
Trying not to.
Because then we get canceled, right?
Yeah. Let's not do that. I mean, I'm pretty ambiguous in my opinions. And the reason for that is because I don't know enough. And I acknowledge that. I'm trying to learn. But again, going back to interaction, I've learned more probably talking to somebody than what I can see on the internet. And even if that what they're saying is maybe not true, or maybe it's like not exact, there's a physical value almost, right? Like body language tells a lot. And I think it's important for me to kind of absorb that too. That's also how my brain works and learns. So I love that some of the interactions I have here, someone may raise a concern. Maybe the facts aren't 100%, but then it invokes this thought process of like, well, maybe I should look into that, you know? So like a great conversation about the AI thing and all that stuff. And, you know, how do we protect ourselves? Do we need to protect ourselves and stuff like that? But it is also validating to know I'm not in the silo thinking by myself, because that drives me nuts too. It's a very lonely silo when you're like that. So I definitely encourage people to come out, experience what we do here, and meet new people. Having a small, tiny circle really narrows your view of the world. So really encourage coming out to here and meeting new people. Come meet Jhae. He's always here most of the time. Yeah, he's not going to be here. Or you're going to be here Thursday. So come meet Jhae on Thursday if this is released in time.
Oh, it absolutely will be released in time.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca.
Of course.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed that conversation I had with Rebecca Nguyen. She is one of the most amazing people I've had the pleasure of meeting in my life. As with most of my relationships, through vehicles, of course. You know, that's just kind of the connective tissue. And behind that, you know, she's not a die-hard car person, but what she is a very determined, relentless pursuit of whatever it is that drives her, whether it's for her own proving that she belongs, whether it's for her son, for the local car scene. She's just absolutely amazing. I took some time and I looked, and she was on episode 99 of Hard Parking. This is episode 309 now. So that was December 13th of 2021. That's a long time. And, you know, she brought up a good point afterwards where, you know, having those type of conversations that we have, not necessarily about the warehouse itself, but just about life. I mean, she didn't have a child back then. And looking back at it, it's amazing to kind of listen to where you were in life at that time. And it's not that she was somewhere that was so different. She was just on another journey. That was right in the middle of the Future Collector Car Show thing. I link that in the description, because when you go back, I urge you actually to go back and listen to that. I put the Spotify, the Apple link, and my preference is you listen to it on YouTube, even though it is a pure audio episode. But if you really, truly want to know who Rebecca is and where she comes from and where she gets some of this drive that she has, it's in that episode. And I've talked to a few of my friends and other people that know her, and we all come to the same conclusion. No matter what she does, where she goes, if she ever needs our support, we're going to be there. We are all incredibly loyal to her with all sorts of things here in the area. If there's anything I could do for her, I am willing to do whatever it is. Because, and I've said this before, and some of you are joining the show for the first time because of my guest, because of Rebecca. Back when I was looking for a partner, a sponsor for SEMA, she did everything she could to get me in. Now, ultimately, it wasn't through her, but there was no reason for her to do it other than that's just the person she is. I didn't have any of the products for the company she worked with. I just knew her from the car scene. She saw my idea, she saw my vision, and she felt that that was worth working hard to try to make something happen. And the only reward I could really give her was to give her the first photo shoot for the car, because back then she was shooting a lot more. Now she's running around just running shit. And it's a pleasure. It's an absolute honor to have someone like that in my life. And I think many of you who know her feel the same way. So hopefully you really enjoyed that. And hopefully if this is your first time, you've already subscribed. And if you have any comments, make a comment about this episode. If you want to leave a review, you can reference this specific episode and how awesome Rebecca is. And if you're out there in the local car scene, I mean, I have a long list of future guests, but raise your hand, email the show, and I'll be glad to set up a conversation with you. There are no rule criteria. You just have to be in the community, and we'll just go from there. So, with that being said, let me get my little monologue here. Things I have to read here. I want to thank Right Honda and Right Toyota. I want to thank SparkForge AIF, Arcus Foundry. One login, one platform, all under your control. AutoCannon officially licensed Honda and Acura gear. In this interview, I was wearing an AutoCannon Honda hoodie, full zip hoodie. It was pretty fantastic. I think you can agree. So you need to link up with them. Can't forget our Patreon business supporter, Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida. The Lucky Break Sports Breakers out of Caledonia, Michigan. Big House Small Home Design out of Ashburn, Virginia, and Traverse City, Michigan. Shaving Success Treasure Valley out of Boise, Idaho, and Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owings Mills, Maryland. If you're in a position to help the podcast upgrade, you can also join the Patreon, patreon.com, Hardparking Podcast, access to bonus audio and show swag when I have it. Or you can become a member if you're watching this on YouTube. Sometimes you get the episodes early. Basically, it's like buying me a coffee if you find value in this episode. If you find value in this, if you find value in this podcast, want to help support, keep it going. I want to thank Mark Stolman, Catherine Cox, Eddie Ramos, Richard Graves, Bo Jung, Oscar Mita, Drew Bunkley, and Dre Mullins. Don't forget to check me out on Instagram at HardParkingPod. And of course, you are watching the YouTube. Hopefully, not listening to it, but if you are listening to it, it is youtube.com/hardparking. And I will talk to you guys next week.
Shut up!